In today's video, we're going to be going over why communication is so important in marriage. What's up, breathing people? Welcome back. Today we're talking about the importance of communication in a marriage relationship. The main way that you can show value or how valuable your spouse is by improving the way you communicate with them. We're going to go over some ways in which you can improve your communication today, but I wanted to start with that point. Value is what you're trying to impart and receive from your spouse. And communication is where that transfer takes place. So improving your communication will improve the way you feel and how valuable you feel and how they feel. So make sure you're improving your communication so that you impart that value. So the first way that we're going to improve our communication is actually not by speaking, it's by listening. It is the best way to improve the communication between your spouse. A lot of times we like fixing. We like problem solving. We like speaking. But that isn't always the best way to impart that value that I talked about in communication. Sometimes it's a gift for you to keep your mouth shut and just listen to their thoughts, to listen to their expression of feelings, to listen to what they value most. That's really where you're going to impart that value in the communication. And listening, so many people have said this, listening is almost synonymous with loving. If you love your spouse, you'll give them these gifts of not talking. I've seen this so effectively in our marriage, where I will just sit there and say to myself during a conversation, it is a gift to keep your mouth shut. It is a gift of love that you're giving your spouse right now to not speak. And that sounds kind of crazy, but this is the type of crazy practice that you need to do to improve your level of communication. Are you willing to practice in order to love and value your spouse more?
Your willingness to listen demonstrates your love for them. It demonstrates that you value them and what they have to say. And I always like to point out that if you know somebody who listens well, you'll get this. You'll get this right away because you want to be around that kind of person because they make you feel valuable. They make you feel like you bring something important. And sometimes a person that listens so well makes you second guess how valuable you are in a good way because you're like, oh, they're really listening to me. Maybe what I have to say really is important. And it's such a gift that you can give to your spouse that's going to increase your ability to communicate better because they're going to realize how much you truly do love them and value them.
Another way that you can improve your communication is by clarifying assumptions and expectations. So I'm going to go over both. Clarifying assumptions are the things that you assume your partner is thinking in the relationship, about you, about other situations that you're involved in. When you're unclear in these things and you're just assuming, that is unreality. Only when assumptions are agreed upon and you know that it is true can those things be real. So a lot of us are running around living in this unreality because we haven't clarified with our partner, hey, is this true? And a simple way to do that is just, I think that you think this. Is that true? That is the best way to live in reality. And in reality, you can have healthy relationships and communication. And it goes the same with expectations. If you have expectations that you have placed upon your spouse, he's supposed to do this, she's supposed to do that, and they don't know of it, it's not real. Expectations can only be true if they are, you guessed it, agreed upon. That is when we live in reality and truth. And that is the foundation that we want to build our relationships on.
My rule of thumb when it comes to this, because I struggle with this one the most, is if he didn't say it, it's not true. If he didn't say it and I didn't ask him yet, then my thoughts might not be true. It's really easy to make assumptions and just live by them. It's really easy to just expect your husband or your spouse to do such and such without ever telling them or asking them if they would. So you really just want to start practicing asking those questions. Even if you think it's obvious, even if you think, he got mad after I said that, he doesn't like that. No, maybe he had a bad day. Maybe that's a trigger of some kind. You need to ask him and see what he says and see if your assumption is true.
Another great way to kind of get started with clarifying expectations is to start with appreciations. This is an easy way to kind of segue into clarifying those expectations. When we start with appreciations, it's like when a person puts out the trash for you or they wash the dishes and you have that expectation of them to do that regularly. Appreciate them first in the work that they're doing, and that is an easy segue to then say, I really appreciate when you do that. I would love if you do that often, or I would love if you do that every week. And then you can clarify with them by their agreement, and that can become reality. The last way that you can improve your communication is by bringing your whole self to the conversations. And what I mean by that is, how well do you know your thoughts? How well do you know how you feel about situations you're in, about your spouse? And do you know what you value? Do you know the things that you value most? When you're able to bring all of these things into your communication, that's where there's going to be so much value transfer between you and your spouse. Make sure you're doing some self-work to know what you think, to know how you feel, and to know what you value, because that is going to be the most valuable thing to your communication with your spouse.
Knowing what you value is really the key in this one. For us, when we've had certain conversations that often cause friction, when I understand what he values within that conversation, that topic, it brings a whole new perspective over it, and I can understand why he comes at it in a certain way, why we have friction there. And when I'm able to bring what I value as well, he can also understand, this is why I get upset when we talk about this, or this is why I get nervous when we talk about this, because now he understands, oh, she values this, this, and this. And so knowing what you value is going to bring so much clarity to certain topics, especially ones that you and your spouse maybe have conflict over.
So I hope this helps you understand how important communication is in a marriage relationship. Your communication is the best way for you to show how valuable and how much you love your spouse. So practice these things. Improve your communication so that you can love your spouse better. And we'll see you on the next video. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it was great, but I actually think our podcast was better. So if you want to watch that, there's a link in the description below.